Good morning. How is everybody? All right, come on. Governor Reynolds, thank you so much for joining us at ASU+GSV. It is such an honor for all of us to have you here. Talk about trailblazing. So I was sharing a little bit earlier with the governor that I remember being a student in New Jersey and hearing about the Iowa test that we had to take. How many people remember the Iowa test? It was one of the first standardized tests. I was like, why are we being compared to people in Iowa? So I'm going to start with that. You took over as governor, chief executive of your state in Iowa in 2018. What was happening?
Well, first of all, it was a very tough election cycle, but I was excited to have the opportunity to run for governor. I was serving as lieutenant governor, and my goals were really growing our economy, being more competitive with our tax structure. We were way out of whack, reducing regulations, and really restoring education excellence. We used to lead the country when it came to education. The assessments, the Iowa assessment, we were known for our infrastructure being an educational powerhouse. And we had fallen, and so I wanted to make sure that we were providing every single opportunity for our kids to be successful, to keep them in the state of Iowa, to bring some of our alum back and make sure that we were having opportunities in every single corner of the state. Can I talk real quick about what I've done? Because I think that that's really set us up to be successful. Our tax structure was extremely uncompetitive. Our top individual income tax rate was nearly 9%. It was one of the highest in the countries. Our corporate tax rate was 12%. It was the highest in the country. And I've signed into law 5 tax cuts in 6 years. And this year, we went to a flat 3.8%. Our corporate tax rate is on its way down to a flat 5.5%. We're currently at 7.1%, and we no longer tax retirement or inheritance income. And the other thing that we've done is reduce regulations and to reduce the burdensome regulations and red tape on our businesses. And then the last thing that we've really worked on, I think that when we get into some of the conversations later on, we passed a realignment bill last year or the year before, I've lost track, to make our government more efficient and more effective. And we did things like cut 21 agencies from my cabinet. We reduced 1,200 regulations in the year one alone. We aligned departments and workforce programs and made us more efficient, and ultimately saved Iowa taxpayers $217 million in 18 years. And we are better and more efficient and more effective because of it.
I wish if it wasn't so cold, I'd move there. It sounds like a great place to be. So it's interesting because you were that field of dreams and you dropped precipitously, just like so many states, and we all know about, we've seen the nation's report card and what's happened to student achievement. And so when you were reelected in 2022, you not only looked at the bureaucracy and the lack of rigor, and I want to talk a little bit about those sort of internal programs that you did to help strengthen all of public education, but you said, enough is enough, we have to run fast, and you created, faster than any other governor, an education freedom bill. Yeah. Why did you do that? What did that have to do with bringing the economy back, and what's it doing now?
Well, we needed to restore excellence in education, and that means providing opportunities. And I am really proud, Jeanne, of what we've done to improve all of education across the board. But I really truly believe that it started with choice, giving parents the freedom to decide the best high-quality education that best fit the needs of their children, where they could succeed and be the best that they could be. Whether that's public or private or public charters or open enrollment or homeschools, they get to choose. And by doing that, we truly have drove competition and innovation and excellence in education, and we're seeing the rewards because of that. It's making a difference in the opportunities for our students. Today, I think it's just unacceptable for a child to be trapped in a failing school because of their zip code or their income, and that really came to light during COVID. Families that had the resources had opportunities, and families that needed to be in the school, needed that structure, needed the eyes on them. They many times didn't have the resources for those options, and they paid a price because of that. So I'm proud to say today we hit the ground running, and Iowa families have a plethora of school choices, whether it's ESAs, which I'm proud to say this year we will be fully universal. We phased it in over 3 years, 300% of FPL, 400, and this year it'll be completely universal. And charter schools went from 2 to 17 approved. We think we'll have 13 next year. And the other component that kind of caught us off guard too was that the fact that they can open enroll, and we had 9% of our students' families making a decision to go from public to public, again, just based on the school that they felt could best meet the needs of their child. I'm going to tell you, and we invested in other things too.
Yeah, no, all sectors and all options, and you went from a charter school law that we rank as failing to a very exceptional one and bringing opportunities in. And I just want to jump on that for a minute, because when you brought choices in, a lot of people are very skeptical. They're like, okay, there's choices. What about supply? You've got a rural community. And I'll never forget, one of my favorite opportunities with you was when we brought in several YAS Prize winners to meet you. And you started hearing about all of them. You were like, you've got to come to my state, we need you. And you got to know Chris Gullisee-Worrell, who's in this room today, who helped start Oakmont Education, workforce development, really personalizing for at-promise students, not at risk, as she reminds me constantly. And you were like, well, what do we do? How do we get you here? And now she opened her first last year. They're opening up 2 more in Oakmont. And you're like, hey, we're open for business. Innovators come and help supply great education for kids. That's extraordinary. I got to tell you, we've worked with a lot of governors over time, but that was pretty game-changing for you. Like, okay, everyone, can we move the bureaucracy and the tables out of the way and let people come in?
Let's get it done. Well, first of all, she's my soulmate. I love her dearly. And I'm very competitive, especially when it comes to our kids. And their focus aligned so well with what we were trying to do in Iowa, to really provide innovation, to meet the kids where they're at, to help them complete or get a certification where they can have every opportunity to be successful in their life. And that's exactly what they were driving. Chris came to the open house. Michael got to be there. I can't even describe that day. There was so much hope and energy and optimism, just because the facility was just amazing. The equipment was state of the art. And these kids believed in themselves for the first time for a long time, and just really believed that not only could they get their high school diploma, but in addition to that, they had every opportunity to have a successful career as well. So it was a game changer, and I think it's just reflective of just some simple changes to the code, not letting the school board decide, the public school board decide if they were going to allow a charter school, but moving that to the State Board of Education, and then having changing the parameters of it completely opened us up for business.
And just so congratulations on doing that. And career and workforce development, career and workforce innovation is hot on everyone's mind in this room and at this event every year, and certainly on the minds of policymakers. And we've gone from this kind of old, clunky CTE to really amazing stuff that's personalized and tailored thanks to AI and things like that. You were just telling me you were at the groundbreaking of USS Iowa in Groton, Connecticut, and you think about manufacturing shipbuilding. So tell us for a couple of minutes, like, what is it that people have to really understand to be able to build the right schools around students that take them, as Deborah Quazzo likes to say, and Michael, pre-K to grade?
Well, and it varies throughout the state of Iowa. It varies throughout the country. No 2 states are alike, so you have to understand what are the high-demand jobs, what are the needs, how can we provide these opportunities for students to be the best that they can be. I've been passionate about bringing the worlds of work and education together ever since I've been lieutenant governor, where I had the opportunity to chair the STEM Advisory Council. And at that point, it's been a while ago, a lot of the parents didn't even know what STEM was, and they didn't understand how important it was to their kids' future. And today I would say 98% know, and they know that it makes a difference in the opportunities for their children. We really focused on work-based learning and registered apprenticeship programs, really helping students see the relevancy of interacting with business and industry. And just the career academies and everything that we've done, we've really worked on building that out, providing incentives for to a partner with a community college, a high school, in the industry. And it works, especially in rural Iowa with the career centers that we have and with the career academies and putting some funding into that. It helps those kids stay in rural Iowa. It helps them find out what they have a passion for. And when you have a passion for what you're doing, you're more likely to be successful. And so we lead the country in the number of work-based learning programs and registered apprenticeship programs, and we continue to build them out, whether it's AI or cybersecurity or healthcare or teacher and para-registered apprenticeship programs, which we've had a lot of success with.
And I really love that you touched on the higher ed piece and the continuum and the importance of connecting those, because I know this is a huge frustration for so many people that, like, first of all, why 4 years? Why 2 years? Why not 1? Why not 3? Why not if I show up and I've got all this experience and I've got some education that I can get a credential, or I can have it portable and I can have it stackable and all these buzzwords we use, and everyone says yes, but it's not happening. Because then we point to accreditation, right? And then we point to, well, there's a problem, and Washington's a problem, the state's a problem. So is there one set of prescriptions that we can follow so we can allow those pathways to get recognized, certified, counted?
Well, to make them stackable, I think that's what we've tried to do. I think that's what you're saying. It starts with credentialing, and then it can build on the credentialing, and then they can take it to the next level, or they can eventually maybe go to a registered apprenticeship program. But I think, I think sometimes we try to overcomplicate it. One of the things we did to make it more accessible is we enhanced the definition of work-based learning so that it could count for part of the core curriculum, because we had so many kids that weren't able to take advantage of it, that didn't have those experiences to participate in those opportunities. And by making it a count towards the core curriculum, that allowed more kids to participate. And you never stop learning. We're always continuous learners. And even if they start and they go right from high school into a business, they still have every opportunity to continue to advance in their career through the programming that we've put in place.
Yeah, that's really great. So you're talking a lot about the strength of what you've been able to do at the state level. And I think it's fair to say there's a little bit of controversy out there right now about a U.S. Department of Education being terminated, closed, abolished, probably more like rolled back. And I keep hearing a question from reasonable, well-intended people that goes something like this. Okay, but why can the states do it any better? I mean, if we just give it to the states, what's that going to do? And so can you help us understand from your perspective as a governor, forget about politics, forget about your party, like, why do you think that's a good idea? What can you do better? And how does that help you, and how does that help students? How can we allay some of these fears about special needs and our kids are going to be, on the streets and no one's going to be caring about them? What do we do?
Well, I think it's a real opportunity, honestly, for the states, and we stand ready to go. We've already submitted a waiver because I've seen firsthand how realigning and reducing some of the administration and the bureaucracy can really make a difference. It makes us better. It makes us more efficient. It gets those dollars into the classroom. They're so complicated, like take the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and that's what we're focused on. So there's 9 separate funding formulas that come in, all have their own funding formulas, they all have their own compliance, and so what is happening is that not only the state education department, but our school districts are spending so much time on compliance that a lot of times the school districts are leaving money on the table. They're not even utilizing the programs that are there. If we can streamline that and simplify it and allow all 9 streams to come to the states in a block grant and provide some flexibility in those programs to let us utilize those dollars where they're needed most, to take programs that we know are working, that have the outcomes we're looking for, and be able to scale those programs. It actually will put more money into the classrooms. It will reduce the amount of time that we're spending on compliance, and we can shift that time to really driving educational support for teachers that are in the classroom. So, they're not going to touch Title I, they're not going to touch special ed, that's off the table, but there's opportunity to streamline and bring it back to the states. Again, I'll just say, no 2 states are the same. We all have different priorities. We all have different needs. We're closest to, it makes more sense, I think, for the communities and the state and for the parents to be involved in the education at the state level. We're ready, and we can do it. And we should be held accountable, which we will be.
Yeah, so that's the question about accountability, and that remains to be seen. A lot of people say, well, who's going to hold us accountable? There's a sense that if Washington isn't writing it down, I mean, everyone shoot NCLB, but then the minute there weren't those kinds of rules, people are like, wait, who's holding us accountable?
Well, it's tied to our state plan, which we still have to deliver to the Department of Education. So we still will be held accountable. None of that will change. Our director of the Department of Education is here today, Mackenzie Snow, has really worked hard on redoing our accountability plan, our state plan, really tying to metrics that make a difference in our state, and every state has to abide by those same rules, so that won't be impacted at all.
And when a school district calls and says things like, which we've been hearing, they're cutting my special ed funding, who are they?
Yeah. Well, they're not. So that's not accurate. It has to go towards special education. It can't be used for anything else. And they have made it very, very clear that they are not touching special education. It can only be used for that, but we can maybe do a better job in how we deliver those services and hopefully get better outcomes for the kids that need that. We did a big reform on our area education agencies that deliver special education in the state of Iowa. It was a tough issue to take on, but we weren't being accountable to the dollars that were going into the system, and the outcomes that we were getting weren't satisfactory. And so we've made some changes, and hopefully we can get that turned around, and again, just better utilize those dollars based on strategies that we know will make a difference for the kids that we're serving. Ultimately, it is all about these students, and everybody wants the same thing, so let's figure out ways to work together to really align to that measure.
And I remember hearing you use the word personalization a lot when you did those special ed program reforms, and you use personalization a lot when it comes to literacy.
Right.
You did a pretty significant lift on teaching reading and math. Tell us about how you did that. And that's sort of, again, it's sort of the choice is great, but you have to have innovation. Innovation can't come when you have flexibility. So what did you do to start really tweaking your law?
Well, we started with early childhood literacy. We did that last year, really focused on standards. That's where we started. And then individuals or kids that weren't performing proficiently, we did individual plans for them. We invested heavily in providing instruction in evidence-based learning, science or reading for 6,600 educators and administrators, both public and private, in the state of Iowa, which is a huge commitment. And we've also made sure that we're providing evidence-based instruction for teachers and administrators. And so we've started to see some great results already from the changes that we've made in early literacy. And so this year, we're applying that very same process and those very same standards to math. We're not where we need to be with math, or we've been stagnant and actually have dropped just a little bit. We've got to do better. And so again, we'll do individual personalized plans, evidence-based instruction for our educators that are in low-performing schools, also working on our prep programs, and then providing parents with programs that they can help build out instruction at home as well. So hopefully we can get those scores turned around as well.
Well, I know you hang around with a lot of your fellow governors, and you must be a little jealous that Alabama made a little bit more progress than you did, Mississippi. So is there some interesting collaborative competition with you guys?
Always. You know that very well. They don't like it when I get on social media because I see the rankings come in from the other governors. But honestly, Governor Reeves in Mississippi is a great example of the success that they've seen with the science of reading, and it's just so encouraging. We're setting these kids up to fail. If they can't read proficiently by third grade, then we're doing them a disservice. And so we've got to get back to the basics, and we're doing that in Iowa. And for the first time, in a long time, I believe wholeheartedly that we will return to our #1 spot as in providing education for our students in Iowa, because we've done a lot of the things I think that are foundational that'll make a difference going forward. and that's really focusing on the basics. That's providing parents with educational freedom, infusing competition and innovation in education, and just building those partnerships with business and industry, with our students in schools and with our higher education, and really being flexible in adapting to what the current needs are in our state and other states across the country. So I think it's a really exciting time for education, and I'm very optimistic about the future.
And final, quick, give me a few seconds. Is there hope for making this a unified approach across governors, states, and the nation so that we can all be on the same page with less division?
I think you're starting to see that. I really do. More and more states are moving in this direction. As I said, we all take what they're doing in states and we tweak it just a little bit and say ours is a little bit better and possibly better outcomes. But I think the foundation, again, Jeanne, you're going to see some consistency across the states, at least in the basics.
Please join me in thanking Governor Kim Reynolds from the great state of Iowa.